What is up, everyone? T-Off Sports here from Win Daily Sports, and I'm going to quickly take you through the courses this week for the AT&T Pebble Beach Pro-Am. So we're sticking with this rotational trend that we've gotten recently. I would say this is much more similar to the American Express than anything over the past few weeks when we consider we are dealing with a 3-course rotation and 54-hole cut that will finalize on Saturday. But that alone changes the handicapping perspective when every player gets an extra day of golf. You could argue that it does more for the DFS side of the equation than for wagers, but there are a few key points to note before we even talk about the tracks for this week. One, we have an enhanced field of 156 players, and we'll only get the top 60 in ties through to Sunday. That's important from a head-to-head and placement standpoint since it changes the game plan marginally. I would be more cautious in taking prices near that plus 100 threshold inside the top 40 section since it's more challenging to make the cut when we enhance the field size, but reduce the number of players making it to round 4. And 2, we run into a secondary problem because of the lack of stat tracker at any location that isn't Pebble Beach. We get that venue once during the first 3 days and then again on Sunday if you're lucky enough to make the cut. But we have some guessing work as to what exactly is taking place at Spyglass Hill or Monterey Peninsula. From the numbers I can gather for the 2 courses, Spyglass is the longest and most difficult of the 3 stops in neutral conditions. The tree line protection makes it marginally more straightforward than Pebble Beach, but these locations are all a little more complex than you might think for an event made for amateurs. The weather can quickly create havoc for the field, and while the greens possess a softness that allows easier second shots, they still have some zip to them on putts. Monterey Peninsula is the opposite of that answer that I just gave a second ago. It grazes the easiest of the 3 and has 2 par 5s that produce over a 10% eagle rate combined. 8 of the holes will yield over a 20% birdie or better percentage. And even if calm settings are what you're hoping for when attacking the layout, the course should be more conducive to success than the other 2, especially when we consider floods ravage the proper early in the year and make the grounds even more accessible because of the soft conditions of the grass. And then we get Pebble Beach, and what every player ends up hoping is 50% of the rounds. The greens measure a tour low 3,500 square feet. Most of the par 4s at all 3 venues stretch between 350 to 450 yards. But consider it one of the reasons we get an alarmingly high 23% of second shots that occur from 100 to 125 yards. That total is 10.4% above tour average, but I don't want anyone automatically assuming it's the sole reason for the second shot parallels that I just talked about. Sure, it partially plays into the equation, but a quarter of the approaches coming with a 25-yard bucket means that the venue must be forcing layups on most locations that will require everyone to land in the same area. We see that with a 267-yard average for players off the tee, one of the lowest totals we get all year that we track. But I think it's one of those situations where you start to big brain your model when you get highly critical in how you dissect the numbers between the 3 spots. I would say some mixture of overall scoring, how someone performs at short courses under 7,200 yards, weight or proximity, and total driving geared heavily towards accuracy would be how I would be weighing my numbers this week. But if you want to add in wind play or POA putting, specifically on faster greens, that is something I did myself to try to build a more conducive model for this tournament. If you want more information like this, be sure to follow me on Twitter at T-Off Sports to get all those numbers straight at your disposal weekly. And if you aren't doing so already, we hope you consider signing up for our Win Daily Gold membership for as little as $5.99 a week to get more insight like this. I appreciate everyone tuning in today as I went over some thoughts for Pebble Beach, and I will see you guys back here next week as we take on the next tournament.